Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the SMB Nation world, we have a special edition with a real SBSer, a man who's all about town in his hometown. We have Jason Harrison from Harrison Technology Consulting out in the Carolinas. So, Jason, we go back. Welcome. Nice to catch up with you again, my friend. How are you today?
Same, doing great. Thanks for having me, Harry.
So take about a half a minute. Tell me how long you've been in business, where you located, and maybe one fun thing about Jason.
Sure. We've been in business for 28, almost 29 years, coming up
Yep.
in January. Probably about on our fourth or fifth revision of the company as we've evolved over the years with technology and all the new things that have been coming down the pipe. And we are located just outside of the Research Triangle Park area, about 45 minutes east, just right off the interchange between Highway 64 and I-95.
All
So,
right.
yeah.
I don't know that part of the world well. Have you been able to avoid some of the storms that blew through, or are you far enough away from those hurricanes?
Oh, we've definitely had our run in with hurricanes, but fortunately this year we were just on the north edge of Florence when it came through. So our area just got a little bit of wind, a little bit of rain, no real damage, no real flooding to speak of either. So we got really lucky. That was all more south and east of our location.
Okay. Well, hey, I want to take a quick walk down memory lane, and then, of course, let's point to the future. But if we go down memory lane, so you were early. I met you early. We did the small business server thing. In a sentence or two, kind of summarize that experience. I mean, did you make money? Was
Oh
that
yeah,
your okay?
sure. No, I mean we literally from I guess it was the late 90s when the NT edition of SBS arrived on the scene. We pretty much immediately just circled the business model around that for, a good decade.
Yep. I
We
remember
were,
that.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, we were, and got deeply involved with Microsoft and,
I
the
know you
program
did.
management team there and worked with the
Well,
SBS team there. And
that's how we got to know each other, right? I mean,
exactly. Yeah, sure.
you were
Just
neat.
from that.
I have an unfair advantage that I live in the Seattle area, so my compliment to you that you doubled down and made that happen. So let's move on. Then I'm going to offer the next intersection point with small business accounting, which they were a fan of SMB Nation. We were a fan of them. Again, paint the picture on small business accounting, and I believe that went away the late 2000s. Was that '09 or 10? Somewhere in there.
The last version was the 2009 version, and then they kiboshed it after that. But yeah, so what basically happened there was we'd done a couple of case studies on SBS and Office, and this was
Yep.
like an '03 time frame. So back with, I don't know if you remember, Fred Johnson
Oh yeah,
uh, and all
yeah,
those guys. So yeah. So I was part of that group.
yeah.
And so we did that, and then that spun off the Office team. I made some really nice connections there. Guy Gilbert, or Gilbert, technically
Yep.
was his. So he reached out to me and said, "Hey, we know you work with accounting solutions and stuff, and you have been for years, and because we were, like a QuickBooks Pro advisor and all that stuff, you kind of had to be because since it was
Now,
the
but
independent
you're
gorilla."
not a CPA by training, right?
No, 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 no. I do have a pretty strong educational. I've got actually more of an educational background in accounting than I did in
Okay,
technology, oddly enough.
okay,
Um,
cool.
so, but it just spun from there into, got before it was ever released, got involved with the team at Microsoft on that, and was pretty excited about what they were trying to
I,
do.
I was too.
And yeah, and there was at that point in time still a big need for competition in the like QuickBooks space.
Yeah,
And it was nice to have a very flexible, powerful choice that integrated well with Word and Excel and other Microsoft tools. And that's kind of where it went. And unfortunately, Microsoft's internal vision for it was to basically drop a hook lower down into the market so that they could pull people up as the businesses grew into their bigger products, the
yeah,
former
Great
Great
Plains.
Plains stuff and
Yeah,
all that. Yeah.
yeah,
So, and because it didn't really do that, and I told them, I said, guys, that's going to take decades for that. I mean, at least 10 years for that to happen. I said, look how long it took QuickBooks to get where it got.
Yeah.
And it just didn't have the support and the funding, and because it wasn't meeting their internal goals, and from the lens that they put it in, it unfortunately met its demise. They're pumping a lot of money into it, and it just wasn't yielding the revenue for them. So, but it was a great product.
Yeah. Oh, it was. Used it and worked with, you may recall, Jenny Masante and Bob Lewis.
Worked with Bob a ton. Yeah.
Yeah. Bob, I think, is at Bill.com now. He's still in that realm, if you will, and then the numbers realm, and then Jenny Masante was the CMO to a big data company. But let's move on. Let's talk about our next intersection point was in telephony with response points. So what was your involvement with that? I mean, that
again another really early on thing. I saw what they were trying to do with it. I had a little bit of an insider look at what they were doing, and had actually even had a chance to communicate a little bit with them. And forgive me, I can't remember his name, but he was the guy who actually invented the voice response codec stuff that was being used. Because it was groundbreaking, and it was something that nobody had done yet.
PhD from China. XD. I think we called him XD.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, XD. So, so started communication with him kind of early on, and was excited about where they were taking it. It looked like it was going to be a pretty easy, good solution. Yeah, very integrated. I mean, we took it to the nth degree. We had it tied in with Outlook and Office accounting, and I mean, it was crazy some of the integrations that we were pulling off with it. And and we even, I think, still have maybe at least one of those still out there today, believe it or not. Getting close to the end of life on all that, but it's still there. And I knew that was going to be an important play strategically, business-wise. You couldn't not get your feet wet in that market and do it. And that was just a good entry point for us. And it was fun to be a part of that, and part of just kind of helping guide that. And even today, I mean, the cloud services that, Microsoft opted ultimately, that they felt like the cloud service for VoIP stuff was really going to be where it was at. And I think that for the, major metro regions of the world, that works. But we're kind of in a secondary market just right outside of a major metro region.
Yeah.
And we, even up to this day, we still have clients that struggle to get decent internet connectivity and bandwidth sometimes, just depending on location. Yeah. So, there's still a play for having an on-prem.
I struggle with bandwidth in hotels, but go on.
I'm sure. So it was, I wanted to also too, just because of the time frame, bring the telephony conversation in and the integration part of it. I thought the integration powerful. It really makes some business sense. It provides efficiency, obviously, and business communications across the board. And so it's just, that's where it started. And unfortunately, it ended with, at least with Microsoft and Response Point. And we moved on to some other technologies after that.
Well, and that's why, and I'll just leave this hanging out there, but that's why, because I want to get to what you're doing now and moving forward. That's what's really relevant. But I will share this with you, and I believe I have the right to share this with you and the audience, that there are days I don't trust Microsoft because, right now they're pushing unified communications via Teams.
Yeah.
And Microsoft has to earn my trust. I'm just going to leave that hanging out there because, we could spend an hour talking about that. What are you doing today? You're doing some cool stuff, man, with Macintosh and security. So what are you doing today, and what are you doing moving forward? That's what we want to hear.
So one of the interesting things is, obviously, with the halo effect coming off the iPhone, I took a really hard look at the industry of where things were going. And, SBS at the time, this was around 2008. I knew its days were numbered. I already had the inside scoop on, SBS pretty much maybe seeing another revision or two, and then that was going to be it.
Yeah.
And despite Microsoft's angle, at the same time, keep in mind, this was also the time frame in which roughly Office accounting was being put to rest. Response Point not far after that, the small business specialist designation all around that time. And I couldn't help but to feel like Microsoft was kind of turning their backs on the SMB space a little bit.
Yeah.
At least from a strategy standpoint, if not
Yeah.
otherwise. And so, because again, we're in a secondary market and a lot of cloud stuff isn't completely realistic for, I'd say 70% of our customer and client base. I really wanted to find something else that I could recreate something similar to that, to cover those that just didn't have the great bandwidth and great connectivity, and started perusing the market, looking at the technology landscape, looking at Linux, looking at Mac OS, looking at everything that was happening. And I knew from just the iPhone and, ultimately the iPad by that point as well, that, we were going to see a really interesting spin towards Apple. And so after taking a long, hard look, and of course, it really made me redefine what I felt like a server was first and foremost. But dude, we've had some incredible success with Mac Minis as servers, and Mac Pros too. They're incredibly reliable platforms.
Well, and this is why I wanted to talk to you today. Is I can probably count on one hand, if not two, in the entire SMB Nation that are doing this. I mean, that's why it's a really cool story, man. You have carved out a hell of a niche.
Well, and to be fair too, the interesting thing is, like, the whole managed services thing and all that now is starting to spill over into the Apple Consultants Network world, the Mac services provider world. And it's kind of weird because it's almost like they're experiencing now what we did in like 2000, 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
But they are taking the more value add approach, and they're less about leading with the brand and more about leading with what they do and what they can do and the value add that they provide, and that sort of thing. Yeah. And we've always done that too. That's just something that we've always done. Sure, we've been deeply partnered with Microsoft and other companies in the past, but those are just the tools ultimately. It's what we do with the tools. It's our expertise matched with that technology that really makes the value.
Yeah, I would sum up your business behavior is again, it's just having known you for a while, but almost nonpartisan. That, I mean, yeah, you did the Microsoft thing, you did the Apple thing, you did this, but that last comment you made is it's really about the tools to get stuff done.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that is my impression of you. Hey, final insight from you, please, on security. So you also have strengths in security. What are you doing? And that's something a lot of our audience can relate to, my friend.
Oh, well, yeah. And, the whole managed security service provider, MSSP thing, is now kind of a bigger thing, I guess, trend-wise in the market. And we started with that with ISA server back in 2000 on SPS 2000. I mean, and as painful as that was, it did open up a whole thing and a conversation that I started realizing that we needed to have with all of our clients, and not only educating so that they understood the risk factors and the things that were out there, but and all that just continued to evolve. We ended up partnering with Calyptic Security for a number of years. They're right here in sort of homegrown, sort of right out of Charlotte. So loved Lawrence and Ben, still do to this day. I don't talk to them as much as I used to, but I love what they're doing. My biggest challenge was that they kind of experienced a little bit of a bump in growth at the time, and we just needed a few extra tools and things that unfortunately the Calyptic's platform didn't supply at that point. And so we ended up making a shift and partnering with Sophos Security. And so we almost every single site we do, there's a managed security gateway in there. Yep. We deeply monitor the activities that are going on there, do the reviews, so managed security has just always been yet another component of what we do. And one of the things that we've never done was that race to the bottom with the business model.
No, you haven't. No.
We never got into that bronze, silver, gold mess where you have the different offerings, because the bronze and the silver usually left too much hanging out there.
Yeah.
So we just went ahead and we were all or nothing. And if a client got it, then they were the right fit. If they didn't get it, they weren't the right fit. And we just kept looking,
Yeah, No, I'll end on that. That's a really good point because again I've known you, I've watched you, I've observed your business practices, and you have stuck to the knitting in that sense, and that is something I need to do a better job of. A lot of people listening to this need to do a better job of. You know, there's boy howdy, it's hard to walk from a perceived opportunity, but there's
It
a time
is,
and a place.
but over time you start to really quickly be able to identify those, and right from the get-go, usually within 10 minutes of a conversation
Yeah.
with somebody, I know. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, this probably isn't going to work, or oh yeah, this looks really good and promising, and might go. Because a lot of times it's about the open-mindedness of the person that you're speaking with and just where they are, technologically speaking. Sometimes it's more of an education, sometimes it's less. It just depends on the person.
And I find it tends to be budget, but I'll leave it at that. Hey,
It
Jason,
can be.
we and I know you know that we got to run, folks. I've been talking to Jason Harrison, longtime SMB Nation member, Harrison Technology Consulting out by the Research Triangle in the Carolinas. www.harrisontechconsulting.com.
Yep.
Jason, let's not wait so many years to catch up again, my friend.
Absolutely, for sure. Need to do this again and maybe schedule a little more time. We could go on for quite a while.
No, we will. I'll ping you offline as we're laying out 2019 educational webinars. In fact, I'm gonna make a note right here to my left. Jason and everybody out there, have a nice day. We'll talk soon, my friend.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.